This, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But we can, if we say we want to dance 2 bars, we can do this with our taps. Any way we want, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I knew there was something about tap that I loved, but I didn't know what it is. And I remember clearly an incident when I discovered the actual joy of the movement, of moving and of finding a groove. It was years later. In the beginning I didn't have that. I also, until today, I don't feel I can show somebody only my tap because I think it's going to be too boring. I had the feeling that I have to come up with something else in order to make it interesting enough so I can do it a full evening. And this is a clear difference from the examples of people such as Bastra or Tuck, because they had their act and they would do that 6 minutes or 8 minutes, and whereas I from the beginning thought I have to meet some standards of reflection.
That's, I think, where the difference is exactly between the American tap and European tap. European tap dancers are a lot more into the concept.
To very archaic powers in ourselves. We are maybe not able to analyze them, but we are subject to them. Even if we don't know exactly, like when you listen to classical music, you always know when it's finished, right? Because somehow, how the notes work together, you know, it's over. One of the first problems I encountered, and I still haven't solved it, really is to give tap an emotional quality. The old style of the musical films is that the emotion comes from the story, and then it's sort of like acted into the tap, right? Where like the guy would like read a love letter and he goes like and he holds it and then he goes and then he dances and he's like flying, you know. And that was maybe good at the time, but to me it feels awkward. I can't do it. I would have to fake it. Well, I was an exchange student in Kansas. I think my parents believed that I was going to be a lawyer or a tax consultant or something, because that's what my parents are. But I came to Kansas, and Kansas is very conservative. It's very flat, and I was also shy, and I didn't meet a lot of friends, and I didn't know anything about the US at the time. So I never dared to ask anybody to be my date because I was shy, and so I would just go to the party and dance, you know, people dance. But the Americans, they dance like, you know, I mean, at least in Kansas, they would just do like this all night, you know. And I was like going crazy, and people started talking about me, about my dancing, you know. People thought it was special, so it's a crazy story. So one woman approached me and she said, I have a dance school and we need male dancers because obviously it's only girls who dance. You know? I went there and it was ballet. It was the typical American thing. Because there are no men who do ballet, everybody was making compliments, you know, and they were saying, oh, you're great, and it's fantastic. And I was like, you know, immediately I thought I'm going to be a famous choreographer or something. You know? After 3 months, I thought I'd change the world with my ideas of ballet. And I somehow got the organization that organized the exchange to allow me to go to Boston for another month before I had to go home. The thing is, I'm a total 100% loser in ballet. I have no chance. I have none of the things that you need physically to do that. I cannot point my foot, I cannot even stand straight. It's like I'm hopeless. But they just want men, because other women need someone to lift them up, So basically I would just be standing there, and they go like, super step, and I go, whoop. And the next, and they go all sizes, all shapes, all ages, and then lifting them up. And so the teacher I had in Kansas thought of herself as a tap dancer. And she believed that you would have to do ballet first to have a basis, and then continue to do tap. And one night, there was nothing to do. There was no ballet performance, but there was a performance called the Great Tap Reunion. It was organized by the Dance Umbrella in Boston. And since I knew that my dance teacher in Kansas liked tap, I thought, I might as well go and see that show. I didn't know anything about tap dance. I didn't know any of who dances. I didn't know anything. And it was all the most amazing tap dancers that were still alive at the time. Later I learned it was Jimmy Slyde was there, Chuck Green, Steve Condos, Honey Coles was emceeing. He had a stroke, but he was still emceeing. Sarah Petronio. I don't remember all of them, but I can't honestly say that I was totally in love with it at the first sight. But I could feel that there was some magic in the room, because all the people were crazy about the dancers, and they were making a huge impact, and it was the best tap dancing ever. And so I saw that, and I was fascinated, and then I had to go back home to Germany, and I had to go back to school, which was a pain in the ass, because I already thought I'm going to be the world-changing choreographer. And I already had graduated from high school in Kansas, which is worth nothing, but I had the whole thing, the schmoo with throwing your head and the diploma and all that stuff. It was kind of strange coming back, and word had gotten around that I was now dancing ballet, and that was weird, I was suspicious. And in the course of those 2 years that I still had to spend in school, it became evident that, even to me, it became evident that it was hopeless for me to do ballet. And when I started to take tap classes, fortunately I had more talent for tap than for dance. And strangely, I always felt embarrassed if somebody asked me to actually dance, like in meaning to take a certain position or to smile or to move a certain way. I always felt awkward, if somebody asked me to do that. To me it was good to be allowed to just practice a shuffle and be there and do the rhythm and stand crooked. And the people I danced with certainly were doing the best they could and the best they knew, but I came to find a different truth. I had the impression as if the dancers I was dancing with and I was studying with believed for tap dance to be dead. And I had the impression that they thought it was their mission to bring it back to life. And they were, in order to do that, they copied very skillfully choreographies from movies. So they had created a whole library of transcriptions of dances by Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, but they also had transcribed an improvisation by Jimmy Slyde.
Wow.
And they were teaching that. So they had won many of these championships. And since I didn't know anything, I would walk into the school and I see all the gold medals, and I thought, wow, I'm learning from the best dancers in the world because they have won all these world championships. Because I didn't know how this works. after I graduated, I wanted to go back to the US because it had been a very intensive time in my life. And I thought, well, you know, if it's true that tap is dead and that we're bringing it back to life, and now I'm an advanced student in the school of the champions of the world, I must be one of the heavy dancers in the world, you know, and I'm gonna go and research. I'm gonna find those last roots, and I'm gonna dig it all up. You know, I'm gonna write a book, and I'm gonna be. You know, now I'm not going to be the next ballet hero. Now I'm going to be the next tap hero, right? So. My girlfriend at the time, she had also been an exchange student in Boston. So we flew to Boston and we bought a car. And I thought, you know, I'm going to start right here. And I looked in the phone book, I guess, I don't know, because there was no internet at the time. If there's a tap school, and there was the Leon Collins dance studio. And at the Leon Collins Dance Studio, there was Joshua Lieberman teaching, Diane Walker, and Pamela Raff, and maybe a few others, but those, I remember those. Basically, they told me to that there was going to be a performance at Woodpeckers in New York with Josh, Pam, and Barbara Duffy, and bring their shoes, and if you bring their shoes, there's going to be a jam session, and you get to come in for $2 less or something. And I didn't know what a jam session is. Right. Because how am I supposed to know? I knew it was a famous school. Woodpeckers was where Brenda Baffolino had created the home for her American Tap Dance Orchestra. And she was teaching a lot and she was famous, so I had gotten that far. By now I knew it's not dead. I had gotten that far. So, and there was a pianist. And there's an audience, you know, and I'm taking my shoes and I walk down there and everybody stands in a circle, and I see everybody stands in a circle, so I join, and then they said, okay, we just start easy, we start with blues, and everybody does 2 bars. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a blues was, and I didn't know what 2 bars are, and I didn't know what it means you do 2 bars. Am I going to sing? Am I going to what? So they start playing, and then I see everybody's dancing around in the circle, you know, and I'm in the circle, so I see it coming. You know? So I'm basically waiting for the guy right before me to stop, and then it's like, now is my time. Now I'm going to show everything I know, from the world champions straight to Woodpeckers. I'm pulling all the steps I can, and obviously it doesn't make any sense at all, because I'm on the mission to put all the steps I know into this little piece of time, and basically I'm dancing until the next person starts, because I don't know how long 2 bars are. Then I realized you can never have this situation again. You have to learn to improvise. So I went back home. I knew I had to try and improvise, and I knew from Brenda that I had heard Brenda say that she danced to bebop. Somehow I made the connection of bebop and Brenda, and I knew Brenda's a great dancer, so I thought it's probably great to dance to bebop, because some of that I had heard those words. So I went to a record store, because you couldn't download anything at the time. You would go to a record store, and I bought a sampler with bebop tunes. And I put the music on, and to me it sounded like a storm, you know? It didn't make any sense to me. It was like, and I figured, okay, now you dance. And I started dancing, and I sounded like a shitstorm, you know? I was just trying to. It didn't have any beginning or end or nothing. It was just clueless. And then I had Josh come to do a workshop. I learned the most important lesson in tap. I learned from him. And you know, Josh is maybe, I think he's maybe 4 years older than me. It's not a big age difference, but he knew what he was doing and I didn't, right? Because I think it took a lot of courage to give this particular lesson. And I thought I'm going to get a lot of cool steps and stuff, you know. The entire class, maybe 1.5 hours, we did nothing but listen to swing tunes and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and snap on the 2 and the 4. And we did it, you know, like he said, I'm going to show you some jazz tune. And he showed me a tune, and you know, I said, no, you count it, and then we did that. And I did it, you know, and it was interesting. I was willing to learn, you know. I was not I don't think I was an asshole, but you know, so I was interested. But I still thought, you know, okay, I got it, so now I'm going to start the class. But now we just went to the next tune. I said, okay, we do the same thing. All right, you know, are you getting it? Yeah, I'm getting it. So, and then, you know, the trumpet takes a solo, drums take a solo, you know, it's a little harder to keep the time now. And then there's a head again, and then there's the next tune. And so, it's still, I still respect him for that, to have the strength to, because I also teach, you know, and I always try to please the students. And it takes a lot of courage to take the money, and I don't know if I pay, I don't know, but, and just insist on doing that. And this was one of the incidents where I realized what I do is pointless unless I cannot relate it to music. And this is really the magic, you know. This is the blessing in my biography. I'm picking up a little bit of history, you know, because there's no internet, you know. It takes personal conversations, and somebody gives you a little bit of information. And I had learned enough to know that one of the great moments in the history of tap was Buck and Bubbles, and I had somehow picked up that they had a follow-up team of Chuck and Chuckers, and Chuck was Chuck Green, and that he was a master of tap. Somehow I'm getting a flyer, and it says, somebody tells me Chuck Green is teaching a master's class, 5 days of a workshop at Fazel's. And I was so stupid, I thought Chuck Green was dead. I didn't even know he lived anymore, you know, and I said, what do you mean Chuck Green? I came to the class, and the place is many people, you know, 25 people, and they're all great dancers, and I don't know, I mean, I knew a little bit more now, but I still was not a good dancer. And from the tradition that Chuck came from, there was no teaching, in our sense, you know, which I wasn't aware of. But Chuck would not give names to his steps. He would basically sit on a little stool like this in the corner, and the room was dancing, everybody was dancing. And then somebody would say, you know, Chuck, you know, it's time to start the class, and he would, oh yeah, okay. It was all very much close to the floor, you know, it looked like, and I was like, I didn't get it, I didn't get any of it. So some of the other students would get it, so I would look at the students, and then Chuck would sit back down on his stool, you know, and everyone was trying to get the steps, and nobody was talking to Chuck. He was just sitting there. So I took all my courage, you know, and I said, excuse me, Mr. Green, could you show me the step again? And he said, yeah, sure, I'll show you the step. Yeah. And he showed it to me again, you know, and I'm like trying hard, and I'm doing this, you know, and all these sounds, and he said, no, it's a toe. And there's no toe. To me, a toe is this, right? There's no toe in this whole step. I know that for sure, because even that I would recognize, you know. And I said, but I don't dare to contradict, right? I mean, so I'm doing it again. So after a while, I realized to him everything is a toe or a heel. Like a shuffle would be toe. The thing was, his teaching was so strange that on the first day maybe there were 25 people. Second day maybe there were 16. Third day there were 5, and then day 4 and 5 there was basically like 2 others, and so we became friends, you know. I mean, not right then, but in Boston everybody was trying to outdo each other somehow. You know, they were great dancers. They were all doing crazy fast stuff, and Chuck, he had this aura. He was like a magician, you know. But he would walk on stage, he'd pick the tempo, and he would go into his magic. He's like a shaman, and the room would be quiet, and the people would stop talking, and they would look, and they would try to get what's going on. So here I am, you know. It's like this big master, and he's not he's totally welcoming, you know, and totally warm and totally allowing me in, you know. So then there's this legendary place, La Cave, right? And everybody knows about it. Even in Germany, people know about La Cave because that's where Jimmy Slyde is hosting the jam session, and all the great dancers around go there. Everybody was, including me, I was somehow hoping to be asked to dance there, and also fearing it, because at the time I was not nearly as good of a dancer as any of you guys, right? I was very much at the beginning, but still I would bring my shoes, you know, because you know you never know. At one point in the evening, you know, Chuck says something like, "Ask the white boy there," you know? So, and I'm like, you know, and so they asked me to dance, and I'm putting my shoes and I go on stage and I'm like frightened as shit, and it's Ross Townsend on piano.
Who's blind.
Who's blind.
Blind piano player.
And Bob Cunningham on bass. And they're both, I mean, it's like as good as it can get, right? So I walk onto the stage, and Lon Chaney was emceeing. I love these people. I cannot tell you how much. And it was like a dream, and then this whole thing is frightening to me. Even just to walk up to Ross Townsend and ask him to, you know, the tune that WEBER, you know, and say, yeah, you know, so he plays the tune, and much later did I realize what kind of a master of music Ross Townsend was, because he carried me through the dance. I was not able to give any cue or command or arrangement or nothing, but he did it. You know, like he would not only accompany me, he would play it so that I could. It was like he took me by the hand, you know, and he would show me, you go around this corner, you have to stop time, now you walk here, now you're on the bridge, now you step out, and now you take a bow. You know, and there was like magic. And the time I didn't understand that, I learned so much about music from these experiences. If your tap dancing did not meet the requirements of the music, it was not considered good, no matter how technically difficult the steps were. It was clear, everybody knew it had to sound good.
From all this story of the first impact of the US, going back to Germany, figuring out something's missing, going to New York at a very important time because the masters were still accessible like they are not now. No one had work. There was no work, but there was a source of knowledge, accessible, vibrating, and willing to transmit. So that's the richness of our generation. But then you decided to go home, and you started this relationship with the festival in Düsseldorf. You started several projects in several companies, because from Freiburg you went to Cologne, and then now you're in Leipzig. You left a trail of people that you've trained, festivals.
Something about the relationship with the masters and what I did later, and many of us, maybe you felt the same way, I don't know, but to me it was, I wanted to be part of this group with the old guys. I wanted to be there, and I wanted for them to like my dance and all that, but at the same time I never had the feeling that this could be my world. I was always a guest, you know, I was always somebody from the outside. For example, Buster would take me to a swing club, and the big band is playing, and I would learn swing dances from guys 6 years older than me. It was great to be, it was like being in a movie. But it was totally ridiculous to think I would do that in Germany. It was not my music, it was not my, and at the same time, I never thought that usual tap performances were very entertaining. And I still don't think so today. I don't think that Buster actually considered himself an artist. I mean, that's not an important issue to discuss now, maybe, but...
entertainers, you know.
Yes.
So this is what went on with the masters. The dance to bebop, you know, that you
Yes.
mentioned, and so you do learn that, and you do identify at a time, because that's the foundation. Ballet is not so much the foundation, it's learning bebop when you're a tap dancer. It's like not knowing bulería when you do flamenco. You got to know the blues, you got to know what bebop is musically, and be connected to the other dancers that form the world of our dance through a shared knowledge of the music. But then you're a different generation, you're a different culture, you're a different heritage, you carry a different music, and so different traditions. Now I do entire shows, I don't even have tap shoes on. I mean, in New York they would say it's not tap. I cannot even bring that show there because people would not understand. They want me to dance to jazz because they know I do it greatly, because of being around the masters and having learned that from them. But I think that's one of the things that most of Europeans are going through at one time, or let's say non-American tap dancers. So the jazz thing is especially bebop, is one moment of everybody's construction. We have to have that at one point. But and America has so many ghosts because of racism in their history, and so many complexes, and so much need still to have this art form be brought into the light, be better known, be embraced, acknowledged, and loved, that everybody still feel obliged to dance to that music. Even the young people, very few young people are branching out and try to give it new forms.
For me personally, even the greatest of the dancers, after a certain amount of time, there's only so much you can take, you know. I mean, I can take. If it's like, it's really like if you juggle with 6 balls, you know, and then somebody comes along and he juggles with 7 bottles, and then somebody comes along and juggles with 8 knives, and then you go, wow, and then somebody comes along with 10, I don't know, raw eggs, and then after a while you get it. Okay, for me, like when I go both in life and in the theater, I like some mystery, you know. I like to not understand everything, and I like surprise, and I like emotion, you know. Like to me, a theatrical piece that I enjoy will have some mystery and some strange turns and some sexiness, you know, and some good music. Obviously, I love good music, but in my quest to give it an emotional quality, to somehow touch the audience, I have tried all these crazy things, you know, and some of them turned out to be embarrassing, and I hope they never. And some turned out okay, and in some great moments, I know that an audience was truly touched, and it makes me very, very happy, you know. Now this piece, for example, my pieces are very different from each other, so it's not typical, but it's one thing I do now. I had one time I thought that resonance and synchronization could be somehow maybe a good theme for a production, because I noticed, as everybody knows, like when you're in the theater and people applaud, after a while they all go the same, right? They all kind of in train. And when I do my groove classes, in the beginning many times I have everybody walk, and I tell them just to walk, and I only give instructions about the walking. I'm saying like fill all the gaps in the room, look around, and I'm not saying anything about the rhythm, and after a while they all walk in unison. And so there's something, right? And I thought this is something interesting, maybe that could inspire a piece, you know. And then I started reading about synchronization and stuff, and once you get into it, you find it everywhere, right? Everything is synchronized, like holidays with timetables, everything is synchronized. Even if we talk, if we dance, obviously in the music there's synchronization, in an orchestra, and resonance too, you know, like the sound of an instrument requires resonance, and but also on a more abstract level, you want to create a resonance in the audience with what you do on stage, or when you fall in love, it's like sort of a resonance to some, you know. So when I work, I usually plaster all the walls with paper, and I can write on the walls, you know. So all my ideas, I put them on the walls, or if I don't have the walls, I have my book. And now I have like basically it's 3 parts, you know. One is like a movie, and the other is in the dance. There are some obvious things you can do with resonance, for example. Counterpoint stuff requires synchronization, right, and things like that. In the tap, what could you be afraid of? What would be a danger when you dance? Because in the boat is a storm, is the danger, right? But when we tap, there's not going to be a storm. I mean, that would be too absurd. And I do the same approach with the music. I have great musicians, and we talk about these ideas. But I'm not trying to cheat. I'm trying to truly create honest work.